All right, welcome, beloved, to my diary. I'm Tatami, and today we're going to continue two conversations that we've been having. One about healthcare for all, Medicare for all, and the other about tone policing. That was two separate videos. Today we're bringing them back together like two blunts, like an extension cord. Okay, but you know what I'm saying. So basically, I want to say, tone policing makes no sense to me. Tone policing makes no sense to me because it's like you're going out there in the dregs, you're going out there in the streets, you're seeing injustices and all of these things that just don't make sense logically when you really think about them in your mind. But yet and still, you're out here like, but maybe if you said it nicer. You're shocked that people are uncouth, that they're just, word vomiting, anger, that they're angry, that they're sick of it, that they're fucking sick of it. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so it makes no sense to me that you don't understand that with these injustices, with these tragedies, with the violence that comes with poverty and denying healthcare, there comes anger. There comes people who have lost somebody. There comes people who have lost everything they've ever owned and had and they feel like a burden to their family, or they feel like their family member is unfairly burdened in their mind because of what they've gone through. So we have this crazy, just all these like issues, emotional issues, mental health issues that come from the denial of basic human needs in a very wealthy country, in a country that just brags. And from, fourth grade social studies and beyond, we're, indoctrinated to just believe in this American exceptionalism. And so people are angry. They feel let down. So when people insert themselves into something like politics, which includes things like people's healthcare and basic human rights, prepare to be confronted with these angry people. Prepare for people to be disgusted when they feel like they advocated for you because you came off like a fighter, but then now you're not coming off like a fighter. So I realized this morning, rewatching, that I didn't include one of the bigger moments of tone policing that I really noticed in the primaries, when Liz Warren refused to drop out and support Bernie, when everybody corporate was dropping out to support Biden. One of the reasons that she gave for that later on was this snake emoji thing on Twitter. This snake emoji thing, like, it hurt her feelings. She didn't like being called out. She didn't like incessantly having people angry enough to send an emoji, I guess. It hurt her feelings. And so for that was one of her reasonings for not wanting to support somebody who could have given us Medicare for all, who could have solved a lot of really deep-seated issues in our country. That's the reason why we don't get healthcare, is because somebody else on Twitter, or maybe it was you, I don't care if it was you, I know it wasn't me. And so for me, it makes me that much more angry that somebody, again, would insert themselves on something so serious and then be surprised when there's, lashback because people are truly upset. This really does impact people's lives. So at any rate, back to my regularly scheduled programming. So for people like, okay, we have a weird dual tone policing that I saw again this year. And it involved TYT's Cenk, right? Cenk Uygur. He decided on Twitter he was going to, and there was a few others on TYT, but Cenk decided to like tone police people, which I thought was hilarious because it's just like, in his sponsored cup, how are you going to do all that? But then you're going to try and call out like Jimmy Dore as perhaps mentally ill or doing too much. And it's like, you're inserting yourself on health. That's life or death. And you're going to mock somebody who's saying that they went bankrupt and that's why this is something for them that just rings true and clear. It's not something that's your fault. It's not something that you can handle, especially in the society we're living in where they're letting these corporations run wild, fucking, poisoning whatever, bodies, land, trees, the air, and, they just shrug their shoulders and pay the fine decades later. And meanwhile, people's lives and bodies are ruined. And, that's what we live in. That's the society we live in. That's just the basics. Never mind all the normal things that we probably get ill from that could also not be our fault. Being born of somebody who has some kind of genetic disease shouldn't be a personal burden of fault that people carry on with themselves. Accidentally breaking a bone shouldn't be this huge burden that people carry on with themselves. In rich societies, we should be thinking of ways to make society actually better. So this idea that Cenk is going to be acting like the goddamn fool yelling for the last decade and then call somebody out for yelling about healthcare of all things, it's so ridiculous to me. And then, okay, I'm not one of the people who's so angry at AOC that I'm like, you know what? She's secret corporatist, fuck her, she's a shill this whole time, you can't trust her, all of those crazy things. Because in my honest opinion, she's young as hell. She's naive. When I think back on the things that I was thinking 10 years ago and I look at it now with my own mindset, I'm like, that's absurd. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So it's like, I can understand that she's young. She's a small fish in a big water. She's trying to play the game how she thinks best. And so when you see that type of thing, instead of just like the thing with Bernie, I'm like, why are y'all trying to act like this man is ancient? Y'all acting like he should have just died and killed over in the streets before you would give him all 100% respect. He can't even call anything quits when he's old as hell and croaking practically. And getting heart attacks and shit. It's just not fair that people are out here expecting people to be mules for every single one of their ideas, every single one of their beliefs, every single thing that they're fighting for. When you don't see somebody being, fighting for what you want them to be fighting for, be like, okay, you're not that person. I'm gonna be cool on you for a minute on that subject or on all subjects if you feel like, but you don't have to be trying to act like people are just like a secret shill, secretly corporatist, secretly being paid out for this, that, and the third. That type of stuff is not productive. What is productive is turning your attention towards what you do believe in. And when they say something again, a policy, etc., when they do action again that you find to be exactly what you want to put your mouth and your money behind, then turn your attention back over here where it belongs. Same with Jimmy. A bunch of people, were just kind of not watching Jimmy's videos for a minute there this past summer because it was just a bunch of crazy MAGA people in his comment section. It was practically unbearable to sit around in, despite his content kind of seeming the same as usual. It just is what it is. Sometimes you got to take breaks from people and move on. Doesn't mean you need to cut it all off. You're dead to me. We spoke about this. You don't need to cut people all the way off. Just let it go. Move on. Don't be here supporting that shit until you again hear what you want to hear from the politician who's here to serve you. So AOC coming out though and being like, it's violence. Dor is violence because he's not calling out his fans, or not just Dor, I guess, probably other people too, people's fans, because this is a serious issue. It's healthcare, it's people's health. People are really serious and angry about these things because it's their lives, it's their loved ones' lives, it's their health and comfort and ability to move on. She's calling it violence, that people are speaking out against her, that they're saying stuff like F her and F the people protecting her. And she's acting like that's like, I don't know, a death threat maybe. I'm not sure what she's trying to imply. If she's just saying it's like her feelings are super hurt. But it's like at the same time, girl, People are going bankrupt. People are dying. People are being saddled with debt that they could never hope to pay, on top of the issues that come with cancer, diabetes, contracting some sort of disease from somewhere, be it COVID, be it an STD, be it like something that's not curable, like AIDS. This is serious. And this is not something for you to center yourself in ever, ever. It can get hard, of course, especially when you're trying to be a public servant. It can be hard when it feels like people are talking down on you, when people aren't appreciating all this hard work you're putting into something. But at the end of the day, people are going through physical pain. They're going through the mental pain of having to deal with all of these bills, all of this trying to figure out where to get the financials from. They're going through emotional pain. They feel like a burden to their loved ones. They feel like half the person that they once were, because of course our society places the only worth on how much you're able to make and how much you're able to support your family and how much you're able to make life easier for everybody around you and slave around the house cleaning up shit and whatever else it is that society has determined is your way of showing your worth in this place. And it's a godforsaken place out here on the edges. So it just really upsets me to see people out here tone policing when it comes to something like healthcare, because it's like, healthcare, y'all, this is serious. It hurts. It hurts when you have somebody in the hospital who you have to keep leaving there, and you have a job and you can't go there, and you know they're mistreating them because you know they think your family member isn't shit because you're poor and because their skin color and because of what they look like and they sound like, and they feel like that person's a burden, so they're gonna kind of half-ass it and whatever. And if they die, they die, and they don't know the pain that they're causing. But it's a fucking issue that we have these people out here who would make more money if we had certain other types of insurance. It's a fucking issue if people out here are just not taking it seriously because, they're not even going to check to see if you have some kind of insurance. Maybe you do qualify for some type of Medicare, but they're not even going to check because they're going to just assume that you're a burden on the system, and they're going to half-ass their job. There's a lot of people out here who, mistreat people in these hospitals because, like I said, it's a for-profit system. And so we have this system where people are just underappreciated. They're not given like a steady wage by the government, depending on which city you work in, which type of hospital you work in. Some people working in state-of-the-art hospitals, those nurses who contract COVID in those state-of-the-art hospitals, they're doing fine. They're able to recover at a much higher rate. But the people who are in the rural hospitals and the poor inner city hospitals, those people are dying too. And it's a fucking issue because it's like you're just not even accepting that there is just this incredible discrepancy and there is a lot of pain. And after COVID, especially after this pandemic, there's going to be even more pain because people are not having any of it addressed. Nobody's being saved, nothing. It's just like just being left to the dogs. And then like a year later, you're given $600 and being told there's a vaccine and you should trust it because now we're here to save you. This was the thing that you should trust. And it's like tone policing on this, of all things. Y'all gotta learn to have empathy. Like, y'all gotta learn to have empathy with the people on these streets, because you can, like, listen to the issue and hear, oh, it's hard. That sounds hard. But it's like when you really put yourself in someone's shoes of what it would be like for you, it's heartbreaking. It's hard. It's your own situation makes you want to cry if you've been out here. So it's just have this empathy. I do want to make sure that, TYT and AOC make sure that they're not on the wrong side of this issue. And by that, I don't mean that they have to necessarily agree with force the vote, but force the vote. But I do want them to make sure that they're not doing what they're doing, which is not just making their case for either, they just think it's useless. They think the middle of a pandemic isn't the perfect time for whatever reason. They don't want to push too many buttons. They just want to, support AOC and whatever she does. But they should not be spending so much time and energy trying to tear down who Jimmy Dore is as a person. Jimmy Dore supporters, or the supporters of Force the Vote as Jimmy Dore fans. I've been seeing that a lot, like people trying to just degrade this whole thing into like, oh, like deranged Jimmy fans. And it's like, no, I'm seeing a lot of people who are just genuinely genuinely we want fucking healthcare. That's period what this is about. People want healthcare. They want to see somebody fight for it. They want to see all the people who've been using this as a slogan and as a stepping stool on the backs of the people who really are desperate for healthcare to gain, foundation and notoriety. And then they just either forget about it, change their mind, or stop being fighters once they get into places of power. And people are just really tired. And I think that's really what we're seeing. So I'm really wary of a lot of the ways people are acting about things, especially TYT, I would say, because I was not aware that they had taken 20 million from Katzenberg, who I'm pretty sure he's the guy who worked for Disney and like a bunch of other corporations. So it's a little worrisome when you think about somebody having a share in TYT, and perhaps that does influence things that they say and do and fight for. I'm not sure. I don't know. But it is strange to me that people are just not only so violently against the thing, but they're also lashing out at like everything adjacent to it, including, Jimmy, the idea of a lot of other things. Like I just, the tone policing, I just don't understand, like, of all the things like that we should be doing, I don't think tone policing is really where it's at. So I'm giving some people the side eye over this. I really am. But I'm also not saying that those people are like, they're nobody I would ever listen to or trust for anything ever again. I am saying, though, that AOC's whole, like, well, we're doing things behind doors thing, that's just not my style. I'm tired of it. And same thing with the whole, like, oh, we just got to put Biden in and then after we'll fight. It's always going to be the worst evil, you guys. It's always going to be this same thing. Just let us try and do things behind the doors. When are we going to see a thrashing? When are we going to see somebody out there doing like political tantrums for healthcare the way we're seeing people doing political, tantrums for the tax cuts for the rich, or even for QAnon? I feel like they have more like people yelling, than people for healthcare do. It's really crazy to me. So at any rate, may your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads, and I will see you next time. And I'm sure we'll continue this conversation.